In this series, we're going to look at the Bernina 5 series. And I'm going to be following through in the Bernina sewing machine workbook. And we're first going to start with the display and setting up of our machine. So the first thing we want to talk about is stitch plate that comes with this machine. It's a 9mm stitch plate. You can also get a single stitch plate, which is great for quilt piecing, anything that just requires a standard straight stitch. In other words, your needle is not going to move side to side. So let's take a look at the screen and setting up. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up my preferences. The first one is I can select a color that I would like, and you'll see the background has now changed to this green. I can even select a pattern. I have one with a textured background, one with dots, or just a plain background. I can also change it to whatever name I want to call my sewing machine. And there we go. Now these are referred to as breadcrumbs. It's going to show me where I am now and where I was. So I can just go back up a level. So let's go into here. Now this is telling me that there's additional menus, this plus sign. And let's take a look at this icon here. This is the beginning tie off. So after I cut my threads and I'm ready to sew another seam, I can have it automatically lock stitched. I can enable it as it is now, or just tap on that, and that's disabled. The red circle for disabled, the green bar for enabled. Here is my auto tension. If I was using some type of specialty threads, I may want to increase or decrease my top tension, and that's for everything I do in the machine. You can also adjust your tension when you're sewing or embroidering individually. Again, I'm down breadcrumbs. So let's go back up. This is for my foot pedal. Now with the Bernina foot pedal, I can auto program it to do a needle up or a needle down. Or I can select it to do some other things. Maybe I want to do a lock, secure my stitches. Maybe I want to program auto cut. So instead of hitting the cut button on the head of my machine, I can just have my foot control do that, or needle up, needle down. And here's the speed of my machine. Now this is the speed that governs everything this machine is doing. You do have the speed control on your machine, and that could be for that individual item that or project that you're sewing. This is also the embroidery speed. You will notice that if you use your machine to embroider, the slider bar on the front of the machine is not enabled. It's actually this slider bar that governs the speed of your embroidery. Now this icon is going to tell me what the various parts of my machine. So this is giving me a little video of my foot, and this is telling me how high my foot is rising when I lift my foot up. I can adjust this. Maybe I'm doing some free motion and I want my foot higher. If you tap, you notice the icon has gone yellow. If you tap on the icon that is yellow, it goes back to the default. Now you can see that I'm down 4 breadcrumbs. Let's go back. Here are my scissors. So I could have it automatically tie off after I cut. If you're ever unsure of something on your screen, press the question and then tap on the area that you want to have help with. Now, my button that's on the head of my machine, which is just to the left of the screen, it looks just like this. I can program this to do other things. So this is a way that you can customize the function on your machine. Maybe I want to have this set as my cutter, as opposed to using the cutter that's down here. Maybe I want to program it as a presser foot lift. I can do that as well. So let's go back up on my breadcrumbs. This one. So this is showing me that it's going to stop with the needle down. And the foot remains down. This is the option that is selected. I could select it with needle down and the foot comes up a slight bit or comes up a lot. You can customize this to the way you want. Most people, when they do a needle down, they're going to pivot. They may want the foot to rise only partially. And if I wanted to go back, so that's that screen. So those are our options under the stitching. The next one would be for our embroidery. Here I can set the tension for my embroidery. Again, the same principle. If I'm using specialty threads, I may want to tighten it or loosen it. But of course, when you're working on a specific embroidery design, you can adjust it at that time. This would be for all of your embroidery settings. Here's the speed. Again, I can set the speed for embroidery independent of my sewing. Now this is for centering of a motif. This is a deactivated option. So this means that when I bring an embroidery motif in, I have moved the position. When I bring it back in, I go away, I come back to the machine. It's going to return to the position I last had it in, as opposed to bringing it back to the center. This is for my hoop. It's now telling me that I need to lower my feed dogs, put on my module. I'm actually in sewing mode right now. I am not in embroidery mode. Here is the length of my jump stitch. Usually 4 millimeters is the default. You may want a longer jump stitch, but be careful because your foot or your hopping foot may get caught underneath jump stitch threads. And this is our thread away. The thread away is a very good option when you are doing a thread cut and then you move to a new position. You'll have some thread left and you want to make sure that it doesn't get caught or nested into the bottom. So you can see when it's active, it's pulling it to the wrong side of the fabric automatically. So it's taking the top thread and bringing it out of the way so it doesn't get caught in. and that's enabled. So here I have my lock stitch at the beginning, and then you have the 3 dots, that's enabled, and I have lock stitch at the end of my stitching, and that's enabled. Fabric cuts, obviously between different threads you want to cut. Do I want it cut when I'm moving? Maybe. And then if my jump stitch is greater than 6 millimeters, do I want it cut? Again, be careful about how long your jump stitches are, as your embroidery foot can get caught in those threads. And here's where we can change it from millimeters to inches.